I liked working with my dad and this carpenter. I was their little assistant. I was the fifth of 8 kids. I think the reason why I did it is because it gave me one-on-one time with my father. I think I also liked working with my hands more because I had a bit of a learning disability. I had eyesight that was not good, and it was not diagnosed till much later in life, but I was dyslexic. I just couldn't read the way they could read. So I learned by doing, and I learned by using my hands and visual and touching and seeing more than reading. It can either be a hindrance or it can be a gift. I don't know, what's sustainable mean? What is that? What is energy efficiency? You gotta be prepared to work hard. I'm sorry, work hard and prosper. It's not a 40-hour a week, it's not even a 50-hour a week profession to get established in. Got to be willing to pay your dues.
Hello everyone, welcome to Creative Blueprints. Today I'm here in a beautiful job site with one of the most recognized architects in the Austin community. Today I'm here with Peter Pfeiffer from
Barley Pfeiffer Architecture.
Of course. So welcome to Creative Blueprints, Peter.
Creative Blueprints indeed, yes, thank you.
Yes, of
It's a
course.
nice, mild morning out here.
Thank you for accepting the interview and the opportunity to have you here sharing your amazing experience in the construction. So I want to start with this conversation with a little bit more about yourself. So if you can share with us a little bit how many years of experience you have, why you decided to be an architect, between all of the other professions, why you are passionate about architecture, and where we are now. We are in one of your job sites, so if you can tell us a little bit more about this, that would be great.
Well, let me see, let's unpack that. First of all, where we are is a job site in Lost Creek outside of Austin.
Okay.
It's a major remodel. We even considered taking this house down to build a new home, but it's a beautiful setting. You might be able to see over our shoulders. We're on the golf course, we're facing south, we're facing towards the prevailing breezes. So this was a great home. When this client came to us asking should they buy this home, we said absolutely. It's oriented the right way. The windows are not gonna get too much heat from the sun. It'll be in a great position to pick up the prevailing breezes. We look at that a lot. That's part of what we're all about, which is climate responsive design. I got into architecture maybe as a 13, 14-year-old kid.
Wow.
It's when I first realized how much I liked it. I grew up outside of New York City, that's northeast of Dallas, and I liked going across a Washington Bridge into New York and looking at the high rises even as a kid. Rode my bike out to the Washington Bridge from our home in suburban New Jersey. Really scared my parents, but just to look at the buildings with a friend of mine. And I knew from a pretty early age that I wanted to not only pursue architecture, but architecture that tread more lightly on the environment. That was the beginning of the environmental movement, early 1970s. President Carter was encouraging all of us to figure out how to live a better life with a lower carbon footprint. I took that to heart. And
Awesome.
I've educated myself with that in mind and pursued our practice with that in mind from the very beginning. I was lucky enough to be chosen to be an apprentice under Paolo Soleri, who was one of Frank Lloyd Wright's apprentices out in Arizona in the summer of '75. And he really gave me a shot of confidence that you can design buildings in the heat of the summer in the desert to still stay naturally cool. I had never thought about that before. I'd always thought of passive solar from the heating point of view. He was one who taught me passive cooling strategies. Just like you're feeling it right now with these breezes, it's not bad sitting out here in this 88-degree temperature when you've got the right conditions. We're in the shade and we're in the breeze.
Yeah.
That's what I learned in the summer of '75 that really helped invigorate me to pursue what later became Energy Star and then Green Building.
Awesome, that's fantastic. How did you discover what you felt at your 14-year-old baby that you discovered that architecture was your thing?
in retrospect, because I'm one of 8 kids, none of my siblings pursued this. Well, my youngest brother pursued construction for a while, but most of them stayed in the family business, which was banking. I think I liked the idea of working with my hands. And I think I liked that because that way I got to spend time with my father. My father on weekends and evenings would hire this master carpenter to join us, and we were renovating the upstairs of this old house we had in northern New Jersey in the New York City suburbs. None of my siblings really took to it the way I did. I liked working with my dad and this carpenter. I was their little assistant. I was the 5th of 8 kids. I think the reason why I did it is because it gave me one-on-one time with my father.
Wow.
I think every kid is looking to have that attention from his parents, and that's the way I could get it. I think I also liked working with my hands more because I had a bit of a learning disability. I had eyesight that was not good, and it was not diagnosed till much later in life, but I was dyslexic. So I couldn't read the way my siblings could. To give you an idea of the environment I grew up in, my mother went to Cornell, my dad went to Wesleyan, both top-notch schools. My mother was valedictorian at an Ivy League college. My second oldest brother got twin 800s on the SATs. My oldest brother went to Harvard on a scholarship. All of the family went to Ivy League schools or what we call Little 3 schools. I'm the only one who went to a polytechnic. I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic. And I think a lot of it was because I just couldn't read the way they could read. So I learned by doing, and I learned by using my hands and visual and touching and seeing more than reading. And if you know anything about dyslexics, that can either be a hindrance or it can be a gift. And thankfully, because of a teacher or two and an aunt, we turned it into a gift. I learned to look at things differently than most people. And architecture was a great profession to exercise that in. It's not so much a reader's profession as it's a thinker and designer and observer's profession.
That's fantastic.
So that I think explains why I'm where I am. And it probably explains why we have invented the building products or the systems that we have. I can go into that a little bit if it's appropriate.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
All right, so when I came down to Texas to do a 1-year intern, and I'd graduated from college in the winter of 1977 up in upstate New York. I left a blizzard and ended up in Houston, Texas, where I couldn't believe how warm it was. But after working at an architectural firm for a while, we were laid off because we were doing a palace for the Shah of Iran, and he got deposed. So I went to work for a contractor building one of the high-rises that I had been on the team doing the drafting work for. And that was like a whole nother college education. I really learned the importance of drawing things from the perspective that these will be an instruction sheet to talk to a few hundred people about how to execute the actual building of the building. That was great. But what I also started questioning is, why did the building codes have us doing certain things that didn't make sense in this hot, humid climate called Houston, Texas? Like, why were you concerned about insulation? Insulation's a function of the cold outside. The real problem in our climate was down here, coming from a Yankees perspective, was how bloody hot the sun was. So I really got into the whole idea of understanding why you want to do to your buildings what you would do to yourself to make yourself more comfortable. And in Texas, or at least in Houston and now Austin, it's not about keeping yourself warm in the winter. It's about keeping yourself cool during the other 8 or 9 months of the year when it's air conditioning time. And that was sort of neat. So it made me start questioning, well, why are we ventilating attics then? That was a northern strategy to keep moisture from building up in attics in the wintertime. It had nothing to do with cooling an attic. We, in graduate school, started pursuing the idea of radiation barriers to stop the problem at its source, which was the sun's radiation. And that then led to, okay, ventilating an attic isn't doing any good, but a radiant barrier really is. Let's seal the attic off, because when you bring in outside air, you bring more humidity into the attic and into the house below. So here we are in 1982, and we came up with this whole concept of sealing an attic, not venting an attic. That's now 43 years ago. It took almost 20 years to get the building code authorities to recognize the value of not venting an attic and not venting a crawl space. And I look back on that and I say that's dyslexia at work, because it made me question these codes and what their intent was.
Okay.
So often you'll read a building code and say, okay, I got to have 1 square inch of ventilation per square foot of attic. But I'm that mind that said, why? Why? It doesn't make sense. And I think that's the dyslexia.
That's
I think
amazing.
that, and then we developed a radiant barrier plywood called Cool Ply that then got bought by a big lumber company. It's now called Tech Shield. It's owned by Louisiana Pacific. But the idea was basically building a shading umbrella over the house by using aluminum foil. Wow. That's just some examples of the thinking that I'm glad I was able to focus on, because I did question what the heck it is the codes were trying to achieve.
That's amazing. All right, so another question before starting with the questions. What do you think that is your happy place? What is Peter happy place? That can be a specific construction, job site, yours, a restaurant. What is your happy place?
It's funny, as I'm getting older, my happy place is reading in bed at night before I go to bed.
That's fantastic.
That's what I look forward to wonderfully. But if I were to say something more constructive, like during the day, if I don't have any deadlines at the office or anything's distracting me, I love working out in my workshop in the backyard. We have a workshop attached to the garage, and if I can just have a whole day to fix a few things and build a few things without any interruptions, that's a happy place. I think there is another happy place that's more recreational, which is I love ocean kayaking.
Okay.
That's probably
any specific spot that you like?
Yeah, in Stone Harbor, New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. I've got a special made surfing kayak that was specifically made to surf the waves. I used to surf as a kid.
Oh, wow.
But I can't get up surfing from kneeling to standing up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm almost 70. But I love, this is a sit-down surfboard kayak.
Fantastic.
It's great.
Who's this guy that is with us today?
This is our Chief Happiness Officer. Trip is, he's the 3rd generation golden retriever we've had at the firm. He's Trip because he's Champ the 3rd.
Oh,
Champ,
wow.
Champagne 1 and Champ 2 were at the office, and this is Trip, as in Champ the 3rd.
Welcome to Creative Blueprints as well. You're the first dog in the podcast, so
well, and
welcome.
he feels like, and you know, he did get brushed before this. I wasn't sure if he would get on TV, but here he is.
So handsome for this.
He is.
All right, so are you ready for the questions?
Sure.
All right, so let's get started with the first one.
I was eyeing this crinkled one right here. What advice would you give your younger self at the start of your architectural career? It'll be okay. It'll work out. Calm down.
All right. Did you feel anxious when you started with your career as an architect?
I think that's an understatement. I was so scared. I don't mind telling the story. I didn't intend to start the practice when I did. We were in the midst of a terrible economy in 1987. A project I had brought into the architectural office where I was working, and I was working for a fantastic architect. He was one of the geniuses and mentors of my life. Of course, at the time, I didn't realize it. Mm-hmm. His name is Mac Holder, L.M. Holder III. He is still here in Austin, Texas. His son, Roy Holder, has taken over the practice. But Mac Holder was instrumental in taking the theoretical computer programs we were working on in graduate school and turning them into real tools we could use for designing homes and buildings to understand better how houses used energy and how buildings used energy. He was fantastic, but that maybe is for later in the podcast. But what happened was I had brought into the office a condominium project to do with my old graduate school housemate who had moved back to the New York area and wanted to build a condominium project on the Hudson River. I brought that into the office. We were working on the designs of it, and then the Greek shipping family, who are our clients, decided to pull the plug on it and not do it. So that was that, and we weren't getting a lot of new projects at the office at the time. This was 1986, 1987. The economy in Texas had dropped like a rock. Then they called and said, we want to shift and do a hotel on that property. This is outside of the gates of West Point Military Academy. So I went up there with my boss and we looked at the land from the perspective of doing a small motel, the West Point Inn. And sure enough, on the way out of town at the end of that few days visiting with our clients, they gave me the contract. My boss was, I was about to take him down to Newark Airport to catch a flight back to Austin. Mm-hmm. And they gave me 2 envelopes and pulled me aside and said, look, we've got the signed contract with you and Mac Holder to do this project. But we really would rather you do the project. So you've got another version of the same contract with just your name on it.
Okay.
And I said, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of impressive, but I was kind of nervous. So I dropped off my boss at the airport. I drove down to the Jersey Shore and sat with my father on the beach. And this beach chair waves were crashing around our toes. And I told him this story. And he looked at me and he said, what, are you going to look a gift horse in the mouth? Go for it. And I said, well, I'm not ready to start my own firm. He said, you're going to look a gift horse in the mouth? Go for it.
Yeah.
So I came back and I was really nervous and I went in to talk to my boss. I said, what is the future here? He said, the future here is my son's graduating from Texas Tech next year. I said, yeah? He goes, well, obviously if you were in my shoes, you would want to have your son take over your firm.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, I got it. So here's the deal. I just got this contract signed under your name and my name, and I think I'm going to take it and do it. And he was wonderful. He said, do it. They're your friends. I didn't know them. Go ahead and do it. And I was so nervous, but I did it. It was $40,000, and I thought I was making $4 million.
Wow.
And I was so nervous. I got with a friend. We had some garage space out in a place on 620 outside of Lakeway.
Mm-hmm.
Hired, actually, my former project manager who was overseeing me, and then set about buying my first computer and desks and stuff. That's where I met Michael Dell. He was starting this little company called PCs Limited, and he helped set me up on my first workstation.
Wow.
And actually, I really got to like him, and subsequent to that, I did invest a few $1,000s with him that he turned that into quite a bit more than a few $1,000s for me.
That's fantastic.
So
an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, it was being at the right place, the right time, and just happy to. I liked the guy's work ethic. He was very helpful for us, and it turned out that, frankly, the investments he helped me make is what allowed me to build my house in Tarrytown.
Great.
So that was nice too.
That's a nice story.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's how everything should be started. Like from a little bit of scare, but a lot of, like bravery.
But I was scared. I was scared. I probably worked 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to let this thing fail. You hear all these stories about how 70% of all startups fail because of lack of funding or whatever. I wasn't going to be one of those statistics.
Yeah, for sure. You are not
No.
now.
Well, it's easy now.
Yeah.
But you go back, what is 37 years? That's is that 37 years? Yeah, you go back 37 years. And it's easy to look at it with hindsight, but when you were in the midst of it, I was nervous, I was scared, and I was overworked.
For sure. All right, good story. Are you ready for the next one?
Okay. What personal qualities do you believe helped you the most in your career? Oh, that's easy. My mother used to use this term, stick-to-itiveness, perseverance.
Okay.
Perseverance, that's all it is about this. There were so many times when I wanted to give up. Let me tell you this, it took 3 years before I made as much money as my staff.
Okay.
I paid for 3 years, every one of my staff were paid more money than I would get. So that gives you an idea of what type of stick-to-itiveness or perseverance it took. My little sister is 3 years younger than me, and she graduated from graduate school with an MBA from Dartmouth, and she ended up getting a job that was paying 5 times what I was earning as a young architect. And that was discouraging.
Yeah, but now it's a little bit different.
Yeah, my friends would do things like, we were all into windsurfing. They'd all pack up and go windsurfing for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought an old house in Hyde Park, that was a wreck, but it's the only thing I could buy, and it was owner finance, so I didn't have to qualify for a mortgage. But I wanted to be on the Hyde Park Homes tour so the firm could, or the practice could get exposed.
Yeah.
And so I spent all my weekends fixing that house. My friends would go camping and surfing up at Lake Buchanan, and I would stay home and crawl underneath the crawl space and fix some rotten beams.
Yeah.
I did rob myself of probably the fun that my friends had in their early 30s and late 20s. But again, I'm glad it did. The house came out wonderfully. It was on the Hyde Park Home Tour. It did get published. It did really help launch the practice.
What is that project?
It's an old folk Victorian home at the southwest corner of 46th and Avenue C that I gutted. I just gutted it and added on to it. It was at the time I bought it at least 100 years old, termite ridden, but it's a beautiful home now. The homeowner there loves it. He doesn't want to change anything because he thinks it'll be famous someday.
Of course. Of course. Now it is.
No, it's not. For God's sakes, no.
All right. So, okay, the next one.
Come here. Come here. All right. Well, what's your approach to sustainable and energy efficient design in a growing city like Austin? I don't know. What's sustainable mean? What is that? What is energy efficiency?
Of course, you talk about this like for a long time during our trip to Spain. So I know that this is a question for you.
It's the foundation. It's the foundation of our practice. I think, actually, on a serious tone, I think we need to get back to the basics. Frankly, I think people think of sustainability and energy efficiency, and their mind immediately goes towards solar panels on the roof, or a heat pump water heater, or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's really not what the movement's about. The movement is about designing in the first place in such a way that the building responds to our climate. And the single most important thing that I see overlooked by so many of our colleagues, because I think they just don't understand it, is shading of the windows. Just imagine how much less comfortable you and I would be right now if we were sitting out there in the sun.
Of course not. No way.
Well, your house is sitting out in the sun. Would you rather have your sun blasting through your windows, or would you rather have reflected light?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on a campaign of sorts to get people away from using terms like sustainability or green and just go to the essence of what it is, which is climate responsive design, period. If there can be many sustainable buildings, but few sustainable buildings are also climate responsive. Which is why I've been railing a little bit against some of these programs like LEED and FIAS that speak so much about insulation and other things, but don't seem to, or haven't in the past, enough emphasized good design decisions. Green building isn't about the things, it's about the thinking. And that's what I want to get our colleagues to be thinking more about. And I know it's a little bit rough to say what I did about some of these programs that have been around for a long time, but the foundation of the green building movement was established here in Austin when we created Energy Star, because we didn't want to be involved with the building of another coal-fired power plant. And there were some graduate students who had who got behind Roger Duncan, a city council member in the early 1980s, and his idea of the conservation power plant. Instead of building another coal-fired power plant down in Fayette County, let's use that money to create a program to incent people to use less energy when they come home to make dinner in the summer. Why do I say that? Because that's the peak energy demand. That peak from 4:30 to about 7:30 required a whole nother power plant just to meet that peak. So let's shave that peak. What do people do when they come home to make dinner? They turn on the lights, they turn down the air conditioner, and they use their appliances in the kitchen. So we gave coupons for replacing the lights with fluorescent lights. We gave rebates for putting in more efficient air conditioners. But then we went to the stationery store and got these blue stars, and went to the 3 appliance stores in town, there are only 3, and put these little blue stars on the most efficient ones. And we named it the Austin Energy Star Program, after the capital of the Lone Star State. It became so successful that we didn't need to build that power plant ever.
Nice.
And the Department of Energy recognized the success and bought the program from us for, I think, like $10.
Okay.
But the foundation of the movement was reducing the demand for something. The cheapest kilowatt is the one you never have to buy in the first place because the building's using less energy. And that's the foundation of the movement, and that's what we have to keep in mind. Making decisions such that the building uses less water by design, has healthier air by design, uses less energy by design, not by an energy recovery ventilation system, not by by solar panels on the roof, not by, well, actually, not even so much by low flow toilets. I know this sounds funny, but the place you really waste water in our climate isn't inside the house, it's watering your lawn. So what if you did drought tolerant landscaping such that you didn't need to water your lawn? You see, so you reduce the demand for water by making an informed design decision.
It's a whole thing, like
Right.
in all the areas, not only just like the construction, it's like everything that is involved in the property. So,
Right.
yeah.
But that's the concept of demand side management. That's what led to changing the name of Energy Star to incorporate this new term that was just beginning to be popular in the early 1990s called green. And Mary McLeod, who's since retired from the city, was in this room of about 14 of us who said, why don't we consider calling it the Green Building Program instead of Energy Star? And that's how the first green building program in the English-speaking world started.
That's amazing.
But it was based on design decisions to use less by design, not by buying this particular product or that particular product or buying into this particular program, just smart, common sense design decisions.
Think about when you are building or something, it's more about think about the design, you know, just like, let's do another property and that's it.
Right. Okay, we're doing a third one?
Yeah. Actually, this is the fourth one.
Is it?
It is the fourth one.
Glad
So-
someone's keeping track. Do you keep your husband on
Of
course
course.
too? Yeah, I imagine you do. Imagine you do. What role does collaboration play in your projects with engineers, contractors, and clients? Well, obviously you can't design in a vacuum. In the end, we have to remember it's our client's house, it's our client's building, by God. And engineers certainly, but I want to talk about how we get our clients into the mix,
Okay.
because that's not totally understood by a lot of people. As I've looked back on almost 40 years of our career, I've realized that we do draw plans, and that is one of the tools we use to convey our thoughts. But that's not what we do for a living. What we do for a living is advise people on how they're probably going to spend the most amount of money on anything in their life. If you and your husband were building a custom home, you would want to have a trusted advisor who can help you make informed decisions, because there's a myriad of distractions out there. All you have to do is go on Pinterest, and next thing you know, you're looking at this particular sliding door or that particular French door or this particular vanity, and you're seeing all the objects, but you're missing the bigger picture is how do you organize, let's take a home, in the first place. And the tools we use are, of course, the climate. We'll go out to the site and look at where the sun is hitting it and where any noise is coming from and where the prevailing breezes are coming from. So we're not going to put the garage, for example, in the way of the prevailing breezes. But more importantly, we decided over the years, rather than ask a client to come to us with a wish list, we would give them a questionnaire that would become their wish list. And the questionnaire has been honed and nuanced over all these years to make the husband and the wife have discussions with each other as foundational as, why are we building this house? What's your goal in us building this house, honey? What's my goal? You'd be surprised just asking that question how many times couples have different answers. You need to get to the bottom of this before you start listening to one and then trying to listen to the other. Or is it really important for each and every one of our children to not share a bathroom and not share a bedroom? Let's have a discussion about that, because that's how houses go from being 2,000 square feet to 3,000 or 3,500 square feet because of this thinking that every child's got to have its own bathroom and its own bedroom. Maybe in the end that is critically important.
Yeah.
but it's still a good question to ask. And are we really going to need a deck off of our master bedroom? When will we use it? It's questions like that that are very functionally oriented too, that make people sometimes learn that they might be able to meet their goals with 2,500 square feet instead of 3,500 square feet. Just because the builder magazines show these oversized master suites and these dressing rooms the size of a bowling alley doesn't mean that's you.
Well, Peter, we can spend the whole day answering the questions, and we would love to hear all your answers because you have a whole experience on this. But just the last thing, can you give us a little advice to the future talents in the construction, the architects that are going out of the college and they want to be a successful architect? What do you think that they can differentiate a good architect for a very great one?
You got to be prepared to work hard. I'm sorry, work hard and prosper. It's not a 40-hour a week. It's not even a 50-hour a week profession to get established in.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to pay your dues and get out to job sites. Ideally, work your summers if you're in architecture school for a contractor. Learn how buildings go together.
Yeah.
You've got to know how buildings go together because after all, you're drawing instructions for builders to build a building by. So you need to know construction and you need to be prepared to work hard.
Yeah, for sure. There is no other way to do it in this life.
No substitute. I don't know a single successful architect who didn't work their buns off when they were younger.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
That's fantastic. Well,
right.
Thank you so much, Peter. If you can share with us your contact information, your website, I know that you have a podcast. So if you can share with us how we can find that podcast and how we can reach you out.
In terms of the podcast, my podcast is being guests with people like you and Matt Guthrie and others around the country. We don't have our own podcast.
Okay.
But the firm is Barley Pfeiffer Architecture.
Okay.
The website is barleypfeiffer.com. I like being approached by email best, peter@barleypfeiffer.com. We do have a phone number, 512-476-8580. We do a lot of consulting for other architects around the country and builders too. So no question is too goofy to ask us. And I think we've got a Facebook presence, an Instagram presence, and there's a bunch of my talks on YouTube too, and my partner Alan Barley's. Don't forget, Alan is a very integral part of this company, and you should, and you should listen to his stuff that you'll find on Facebook and Instagram and places like that.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Peter, for this interview. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you again.
Okay, thanks.